When we think of the greatest heroes in mythology and literature, we often envision men who are tested by seemingly insurmountable challenges. Their trials come in many forms, but one of the most powerful and consistent themes involves the impact of women on their fates. From the biblical Samson, blessed with unmatched strength, to figures like King Odysseus and Siegfried, the hero's journey often revolves around a woman's influence. These stories are rich with symbolism and meaning, but one lesson stands clear: the hero's response to feminine influence, especially in moments of weakness or vulnerability, is what defines his ultimate fate. The tale of Samson, as narrated in the Bible, serves as an iconic example of this theme. Samson was a man granted extraordinary strength, a gift from God, but it was his relationship with Delilah that ultimately led to his downfall. Samson revealed the secret of his strength to Delilah, trusting her despite the knowledge that she had been paid to betray him. When she cut his hair, Samson's strength vanished, and he was captured and humiliated by his enemies. The biblical narrative portrays Samson's strength not as a mere physical power, but as something deeply intertwined with his relationship with Delilah. This interaction, which seems to originate from a place of love and trust, becomes a test of his resolve and discipline. His failure leads to a painful lesson. This brings us to the central idea: we must consider the hero's vulnerability. The weakness Samson displayed in trusting Delilah, the woman who ultimately betrayed him, is reflective of a broader theme that is as relevant today as it was in ancient stories. What is the lesson in this betrayal? Should men hate women for their perceived cruelty? According to Schopenhauer's philosophy, this dynamic is not about vilifying women, but about understanding them as natural forces that serve as tests for men. They challenge men's strength, discipline, and character. In the world of Schopenhauer, women are not to be hated but to be understood. They are not simply subjects to be conquered or mere symbols of temptation. Instead, they represent forces of nature that shape and mold men. This message resonates with the wisdom of Schopenhauer's philosophy. Even if Schopenhauer himself, known for his rather harsh views on life, may not have always couched it in the most pleasant terms, his core idea is that the struggles caused by women, especially those in romantic relationships, are essential to a man's growth. Schopenhauer's famous quote, "You do not curse the fire for burning your hand when you reach into it. You learn not to be careless with fire," encapsulates this perspective. Fire is a force of nature. It is dangerous, but it can also be a tool when understood and respected. In the same vein, relationships, particularly with women, can burn us. Yet, we should not curse them for doing so. Instead, we should learn from them and grow stronger in the process. Betrayal, heartbreak, or disappointment in relationships is not a signal to fall into misogyny or despair. It is an opportunity for growth, a painful but necessary test that tempers and refines our character. Every experience of suffering in love can be a catalyst for transformation. Pain can be alchemized into power. The myth of the phoenix burning and rebirthing itself from the ashes is another analogy Schopenhauer might use to explain this process. Just as the phoenix emerges stronger and more radiant after being consumed by flames, so too can a man be reborn through the suffering of heartbreak, provided he is willing to learn from it. Schopenhauer saw suffering as an inherent part of existence. In his words, unless suffering is the direct and immediate object of life, our existence must entirely fail of its aim. This sobering truth asserts that suffering is not the anomaly in life, it is the rule. We do not live to seek comfort and pleasure, rather, we live to navigate hardship and transcend it. While this view may seem harsh or even cynical at first, Schopenhauer's philosophy has a silver lining: suffering is not in vain. In fact, it serves a purpose. Schopenhauer explains, if life were too easy, if we were relieved of all need, hardship, and adversity, if everything we took in hand was successful, men would become insufferably arrogant and foolish, even mad. A certain amount of hardship is necessary for every man at all times. This observation is pivotal in understanding Schopenhauer's worldview. Imagine a world without hardship, where every man's desires are effortlessly fulfilled. What would happen? Would we be content, or would we grow bored, restless, and destructive? Schopenhauer envisions such a world and warns that it would lead to chaos and despair. Without struggle, life would lose its meaning. We would stagnate, becoming shallow, arrogant, and incapable of meaningful growth. A life without struggle, especially in romantic relationships, would also be empty. If every romantic desire were easily satisfied, if every man could acquire his ideal partner without effort, the relationship would become meaningless. There would be no emotional growth, no challenge, and no depth. Instead of bliss, we would find a world of complacency and eventual destruction. This brings us back to the relationship between men and women. Schopenhauer did not see women as malicious agents, but as natural forces that ensured the continuation of the struggle. A relationship without conflict, without trials, would be dull and stagnant. A man who faces no obstacles, especially in love, would miss out on the invaluable lessons that these challenges offer. Struggle is what forges strength. It sharpens the mind and the spirit. For Schopenhauer, peace and ease were fleeting moments in life, not the essence of existence. The true nature of life, especially when it comes to relationships, is struggle. Women, by their very nature, are integral to this struggle. They test the resolve and character of men, ensuring that only the strongest emerge victorious. This is not because women are cruel, but because they are natural forces that compel men to grow stronger. In Schopenhauer's view, women's challenges are not meant to harm, but to build men into better, more capable individuals. So what is the ultimate reward for those who embrace these challenges? Schopenhauer would argue that the payoff is sovereignty. Sovereignty in this context does not refer to political power or control over others. Rather, it refers to a man's mastery over his own life and fate. A sovereign man is not beholden to his desires, nor is he enslaved by the need for validation or approval from others. He is self-reliant, emotionally stable, and in control of his destiny. How does one achieve this sovereignty? Through struggle. A sovereign man is forged in the fires of hardship, much like steel is shaped in a forge. Each trial, every rejection, and every heartbreak is a blow that tempers him, making him stronger and more resilient. Schopenhauer observed that most people wander through life in a state of delusion, unaware of the true nature of existence. However, suffering has a way of waking us up, cutting through the illusions, and forcing us to confront reality. When a man is betrayed by a woman he loves, or when he experiences rejection, it feels as though the very heart of nature has reached in and torn his heart apart. The instinct is to become bitter, to generalize that all women are deceitful or cruel, or to sink into self-pity and think that he was simply not good enough. These are natural responses, but they do not lead to growth. Instead, Schopenhauer would urge us to embrace suffering as our teacher. Feel the pain, acknowledge it, and then ask what lesson can be learned from this experience. Perhaps the man realizes he was expecting something in return for his kindness, or maybe he learns that his happiness cannot depend on another person's approval. These are the lessons that refine him, that turn his pain into wisdom. Schopenhauer might speak of resignation in the face of suffering, the idea that we must accept the nature of life and its inherent challenges. However, for those of us seeking empowerment, we can interpret this resignation as an opportunity for growth. When we stop expecting life to be easy, when we stop expecting love to be without conflict, we gain a new perspective. We realize that suffering is not a sign of defeat, but a crucial part of the process of becoming sovereign. A sovereign man does not beg for love. He does not seek approval or validation from others because he is self-assured. He attracts love naturally, not because he is desperate for it, but because he exudes strength and confidence. A man who has walked through the fire of struggle and emerged unscathed is a man who commands respect. His dignity is not tied to the approval of others, it is intrinsic. Schopenhauer famously said that showing extreme deference to a woman diminishes a man in her eyes. To stand tall and unbowed, to be emotionally steady in the face of her beauty or fury, elevates a man in her esteem. Sovereignty does not mean cruelty. Schopenhauer himself noted that men should spare women's weaknesses, implying that a sovereign man can still show compassion and kindness, but from a place of strength, not weakness. True strength is the ability to love without becoming dependent, to be generous without being a fool, to be kind without being weak. It is about understanding the game of life and love, accepting that women will test us, and embracing the challenge as an opportunity to grow. Imagine, then, the metaphor of a swordsmith crafting a blade. The metal is heated, hammered, and folded again and again. The metal might cry out if it had a voice, but through this process it becomes strong, sharp, and unbreakable. Your suffering, especially in love and rejection, is the hammer and anvil. If you endure it with dignity, you will emerge like a blade forged in fire, unbreakable and resilient. Schopenhauer's warning leads to a liberating insight. We cannot avoid the struggle, but we can transform ourselves through it. Modern men, in their struggles with love, can find solace in this. Women, though challenging, are not enemies. They are the agents of transformation. The hardships they bring are opportunities to grow, to become stronger, to become sovereign. Sovereignty means no longer chasing validation, no longer clinging to external approval. It means accepting that life is not about winning someone's affection, but about building a life of purpose and strength. Ironically, when you stop needing validation, love tends to follow naturally. Women are drawn to men who have been through the crucible and come out the other side. A man who carries his scars with pride, not self-pity, is a man who commands admiration. Schopenhauer might have never married, and his view on love was undeniably darker than most. But even in his pessimism, there is a kernel of truth. Life will always find ways to challenge us. But by accepting this struggle, we become men who can face any challenge, whether in relationships or in the broader trials of life, with a calm and steady spirit. A sovereign man is untouchable not because he is invincible, but because he has mastered himself. He does not fear suffering, for he understands that it is through suffering that he will grow. If you have ever felt broken, confused, or emasculated by the trials with women, take Schopenhauer's message as a strange blessing. Women are not cruel. They are the tests we must endure to grow stronger. Your suffering is not a sign of defeat, but a sign that you are being shaped into something better. When you persevere, when you refuse to surrender your dignity, when you take responsibility for your own happiness and fate, you become a sovereign individual. And in your sovereignty, you will command respect, inspire devotion, and find a freedom that no one can take from you. This is the paradoxical gift hidden in your pain. Through enduring it, you become its master, and in that mastery, you become truly free. If today's message resonated with you, and you have faced struggles in relationships that have left you feeling broken, know this: the true path to mastery is through embracing those challenges, learning from them, and ultimately rising above them. Like the greatest heroes of myth, you too can emerge from suffering stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever life has to offer. If you enjoyed our videos, make sure to give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe to Philosmind for more thought-provoking ideas and deep insights.